In Rise of Kingdoms, there are two main ways to spend your action points. This is through killing barbarian troops which are on the map, or doing barbarian forts. So today, I will be discussing which one is stronger. Should you do barbarians more often, or should you do barbarian forts more often? So if you want to know which one's going to give you more value and which one is the most powerful, you definitely want to check out the rest of the video. Now let's begin by discussing the barbarian troops, and we'll start off by discussing the main advantages to barbarians. And the first thing that barbarians really do over barbarian forts is that you can actually kill more than one barbarian for the price of one. So if you have a commander with area of effect damage, especially a circle area, you're going to notice you can actually aggravate another barbarian to come and attack you by dragging another barbarian up. So for example, right here, you can see I've moved this barbarian up. My Boudica is going to throw her active skill, and then my ZHUGE with his circle AoE gets this other barbarian to attack me, and I get to defeat that barbarian for a cheaper price. I don't have to pay a single thing for it. I only have to pay for this one barbarian here. And in Home Kingdom, for example, if you're a remote area, let's say I was like over here by myself, you can see there's going to be a lot of barbarians cluttered around. And especially if you can get a big cluster like this, I could probably AoE every single one here for just the price of one barbarian. So that is really, really, really good value. So doing area of effect farming with barbarians is one thing that's really going to be a major advantage over, for example, doing barbarian forts. The other advantage to barbarians is they give you a lot more gems. Whether you're doing AoE farming or actually swarming them down, you're going to notice that you're hitting them with more marches, which means that you're going to have a higher chance of getting gems, since if you hit barbarians with 5 marches, you have 5 chances of getting those gems. Or B, if you're doing AoE farming, you're going to notice you're killing more of them than you are barbarian forts. So even though barb forts give the same amount of gems, you have a much higher chance of getting gems from barbarians because you have more chances of defeating the barbarians to get more gems. Also, barbarians themselves in Season of Conquest KVKs give you materials, so do keep that in mind. In comparison to the barbarian forts, the barbarians themselves actually give you materials, while barbarian forts do not give you any materials in any way. So keep that in mind. With barbarians, you're going to notice they give you a ton of materials, while barbarian forts are really lacking in that regard. The other advantage that barbarians have is that they give you more experience points. This is not in terms of books, they actually give you more experience points in terms of straight onto your commanders. So this means that yes, you're going to get less experience books, which means that you won't be able to stash as many, but you're going to get more total experience, since it's going to give each commander that attacks those barbs usually around in Home Kingdom like 6,000, but in KVK around 12 to 15,000 experience, which is going to go straight to that commander. One thing to note about this experience right here is it can actually stack even if that commander is the max level for its star level. So for example, my Xiao Xiao is level 50 out of 50 for star level 4 or 5, sorry, and that means he's been stashing his experience for quite a while. So I've earned 44 million XP from just doing barbarians with my Xiao Xiao for free. So if I were to take him up to the next rank, he's probably going to go instantly straight to like level 60 for free. I have not spent a single book on that. That is only from the barbarians themselves. And you can see with a ton of my other commanders I use for barbs like Richard, they stashed up a ton of experience over the time I've been using them, because barbarians can give you a lot of experience, and that experience does stack to the next level. The next advantage to barbarians is a more endgame thing, and that is once you've maxed your arrow tower, you're going to notice you have a ton of arrows in the overflow. And since barbarians give you more arrows of resistance, A, they can give you up to like 20 each, and B, you have more chances of getting arrows, you're going to notice that you're going to have more arrows. So you're going to get more alliance credits for them, because one Book of the Covenant is 40 alliance individual credits, and this comes from barbarian forts, while one arrow is also 40 credits, but they come from barbarians themselves, and you can get like 12 per barbarian. And if you do that correctly, you're going to get maybe like 1,000 within like 3 weeks. So you're going to notice you get a ton of those really quickly, and they're going to be much better for selling to get a ton more alliance credits, so you can buy stuff such as teleports, VIP points, and things like that, which are really, really valuable to your account. The final pro to barbarians is they are much quicker than doing, for example, a barbarian fort. If you want to just do barbarians and spend your action points really quick, and you want to swarm them down with as many marches as you can, that is really, really fast. You're going to burn through a full bar of action points probably within 5 to 10 minutes at the max. So you're going to easily get through that, and this is really, really good if you're trying to spend a ton of action points. For example, if you are trying to get a high honor ranking, no one does barbarian forts to get number 1 in individual honor. You just do barbarians because you do not have the time to sit there and wait for barbarian forts, when you could just be spending more action points to get maybe less honor than if you did Barbarian forts, but overall it's going to be much more efficient since you're able to spend those action points much quicker. So if you're able to spend those action points quick and you want to get rid of them really quickly, maybe you have to go off for a couple of hours. You're like, okay, I could do like 2 Barbarian forts and spend 300 AP, or I could spend my full bar. And it's like, okay, I'll just swarm the Barbarians down, even though they may give less items than a Barbarian fort, which I'll discuss in a minute. You're at least getting some amount of value before you do go off, and it's still a very, very high amount of value. And especially, like I said before, for events where you've been noticing like you have to actually push honor and KVK, it's okay. Barbarians are much, much better value, and you're going to do those instead. The final major pro for Barbarian troops is that you're often going to see them in more events. Most events give you rewards for doing Barbarians and not really rewards for doing Barbarian forts. I don't think there is a real event out there that's competitive for Barbarian forts, besides maybe there's a KVK one that comes around every now and again. And also you've got that one alliance event, but usually if you're in the top alliance, you win that event. So you're going to notice that Barbarian events will pop up more often, and those events can give you tons of rewards. For example, the 7,000 gem event is going to give you up to 35 gold heads, and the main way to earn stuff in that event is usually defeating Barbarians or gathering resources. Never is it really doing Barbarian forts. The Mightiest Governor, another prime example, is from doing Barbarians. If you want to earn points in it, in stage 2, I'm pretty sure, and stage 7 or 6, you're going to notice you get points for defeating Barbarians, and that's where they really come in. They are once again way more prominent in most events, and you're going to notice that those events are the events which can give you a ton of rewards, and some of them can give you literal gold heads, whether it be, like I said before, the Mightiest Governor or the Race Against Time event, which are both really, really important events that if you do correctly, give you a ton of gold heads. Now that we've discussed Barbarians, what about Barbarian forts? And the first main advantage to Barbarian forts over Barbarians is, let's say you were just 5 swarming these Barbarians right here, or doing 1 Barb fort rally, it's actually going to give you more value per action point in speed ups, in resources, in experience, in crystals, and in honor. It is only a minor increase in the crystals and honor and a minor increase in the resources, but still it is an increase nevertheless. So if you do a Barbarian fort, you will actually be getting slightly more value per action point than if you were to just 5 swarm Barbarians. One thing to note here is, if you are, for example, doing AoE Barbarian farming, then it is a little bit more difficult to actually justify doing Barbarian forts, but maybe some of the other advantages will change your mind. The next advantage is that Barbarian forts can actually give you action points to stash. So for example, you can actually earn an action point bottle recovery, which you can put in your inventory back after you defeat a Barbarian fort. Now, you are spending around 250 to 300 action points in a KVK to get this Barbarian fort, but you are getting this action point back as something you can use whenever you want. It's not an instantly activated thing. It's going to be in your inventory, and you can choose to use it whenever you want to push for specific events. They can give you wood resources and food resources. I'm not sure if they do give gold as well. I'm not sure if they do, but they definitely give gold. So you can see right off the bat right there, they are really, really good for helping your alliance and helping yourself earn a bunch more action points. The other thing with Barbarian forts is they actually count a lot towards your treasure of the crystal and also your alliance gift level, which is the purple thing at the top, and that's where they also can shine a lot. Each blue crystal treasure has 18 hours worth of speed ups. Each gift level up can give you more speed ups and more resources and stuff out of this blue crystal chest. So that means it's really, really good to be doing Barbarian forts mainly for your kingdom. While it may not be a more account-centered thing, it's a much more kingdom-wide centered thing. Plus, the action point Barbarian forts give you is way more important than the main stuff that it does give you, such as resources and speed-ups. Keep in mind though, this action point gain was nerfed. You used to be able to get infinite action points from the Barbarian forts themselves, and back then, it wouldn't have been a competition. It would be easily, even I would be saying it, Barb forts are the way to go. But nowadays, with the nerfed action points, it may not be 100% that way, especially since now you can't get infinite action points. It's limited to like 7,500 per week. You can, however, get infinite of those inventory ones whenever you defeat the fort. So if you join a rally and you get 50 AP back, you're going to notice you can get unlimited of those. That's not limited per week. Only the amount you get from the alliance gifts is limited. Now that we've discussed the pros of Barbarian forts and the pros of Barbarians themselves, what about the disadvantages? And we'll start off with the disadvantages to Barbarian forts. And the most obvious one is you need to be in an alliance. You can't do a Barbarian fort alone. I could bring a billion marchers, stand next to this thing. I couldn't attack it even if I wanted to. The only way you can do that is by launching a rally from your city and having people join it. So you can see here, if I launch this rally, I'll just go into the rally menu. The only way these people can attack a fort is if someone joins their rally with their troops. So they have to be willing to trust you with their troops to join their rally and actually help them. So you are more reliant on other people whenever you do Barbarian forts. It's not like Barbarians where you can just walk out there and attack them. You have to actually launch the rally, and the thing with launching rallies is they're not quick. They can take up to 10 minutes each because you have to A, launch the rally, B, wait up to 5 minutes, plus any extended time depending on how far people are, because your rally can end up in this waiting stage as you see here. You also have to wait for your troops to connect or walk to the Barbarian fort, attack the fort, defeat the fort, and then walk back to your city for you to use another rally. So for example, if I were to launch a rally with like my Boudica and a ZHUGE, I can't launch the Boudica ZHUGE rally till they get back to my city again. The next major issue with Barbarian forts is they are really, really expensive. If you don't get a good Barbarian fort rally, or your rally doesn't go too well, let's say like this one I did recently, you're going to notice it is quite expensive. I had to pay off 1,000 tier 5 7s here, which basically was the price of all the resources I got in return. So Barbarian forts can be more costly, especially if you don't have the correct commanders and if you make any mistakes. So really it is important to keep that in mind. They are way more costly in some situations than Barbarians. Another thing to note is that you do need good commanders to do Barbarian forts, and you often need good crystal tech and a good castle level. Especially these KVK Barbarian forts, you need that good crystal tech, you need those good commanders, but mainly you need to be able to hold around 1.6 million troops. So you want to be able to have a high level castle to do these forts, especially those later game KVK ones, and you need that good crystal tech, which can prohibit some players from doing them properly, which is a really, really, really big disadvantage to it, especially the crystal tech aspect where you're going to need to get into the Barbarian reports and get more Barbarian ore damage and a bunch of stuff like that, which can be difficult for some players to fully access, which makes Barbarian forts a lot more difficult for you to launch a rally and much easier for you to join another rally, but then you're putting your troops in the hands of other people, and sometimes you may not know what their commanders are actually like. Now, what are the main disadvantages with Barbarians? Well, the first one is that you have to pay active attention with Barbarians, especially if you're AoE farming. So if I'm AoE farming, I can't look away from the device for like a minute, because if you ruin the chain, you have to spend the action points and do it again. So it is really, really frustrating sometimes where it's like I'm trying to do an AoE farm and maybe something comes up like, okay, well that farm's completely gone, wasted action points, because I would rather do a Barbarian for a rally for that price. So keep that in mind if you're doing Barbarians, especially the AoE farming. You have to be proactive and pay a lot of attention to it. You can't just walk away for a bit and then come back like you could if you launched a Barbarian fort rally. Let's say went and got a cup of water and then came back. Maybe the rally is already launched or about to launch, and then you can just like watch it happen. So it's not like Barbarian forts where you can go and then come back. You really have to be paying attention and doing it actively. As even if you're swarming Barbarians, it's much quicker to defeat a Barbarian than it is to a Barbarian fort. So you're going to notice once again, you still have to pay a lot of attention within swapping your troops to hit other Barbarians, and it is going to be more focus consuming but less time consuming. The other main disadvantage of Barbarians is that if you're not doing AoE farming, they are, like I said before, giving you less value overall than Barbarian forts. So Barbarian forts are going to give you that extra value over the Barbarians, especially if you are trying to get pure resources and you're just doing 5x swarms. Barbarian forts are going to be better. The final disadvantage to Barbarians themselves is that their arrows of resistance are really easily accessible, and they aren't as difficult to obtain as, for example, the Books of the Covenant, which everyone is coveting. Ha, get it. So it is really, really easy to get arrows of resistance, but Books of the Covenant not so much, which means Barbarian forts in terms of that regard are way less value, which is definitely a major disadvantage. Now that we've seen both the disadvantages of the Barbarian forts and the Barbarians themselves, which one is overall better? And I think there are 3 situations which really shift up which one is better. First of all, whenever there is an event relating to the Barbarians, whether it be the 7k gem event, with the Marauders event, or a Mightiest Governor, or a Strategic Reserve event, those events are going to make Barbarians be way more value. So if you're doing Barbarians, just fire swarming them and those events show up, then I would stop doing forts, do those events, do the 7k gem event, do the Strategic Reserve event, do events which are really, really related to Barbarians that are going to give you more rewards. Even the Lohar events give you a ton of rewards in terms of speed ups and just pure resources from the Lohar's necklaces. So any events related to Barbarians, push them over that threshold to become more valuable than Barbarian forts in pretty much every single way. So if there's a Barbarian related event, do that event, and you're going to notice that they will be getting more value than the Barbarian forts. If there is no event running though, and you're just 5x sawing Barbarians, you're not really like AoE farming or anything like that, then Barbarian forts are overall better value. If I were to just send out all my marchers to swarm Barbarian or do one Barbarian fort, that Barbarian fort per action point I spend is going to give me more value than that Barbarian per action point I spend between all my marches. So do keep that in mind. That Barbarian fort is overall more value, but it is a little bit more difficult. But if there are events for Barbarians, they will become more value once again. The final situation, which changes it up one last time, is AoE farming. If there is a ton of Barbs to be AoE farmed, they become by far and away the best value in the game compared to Barbarian forts. Like, it's not even close. Let's say there were 5 Barbarians clumped up together or something like this. There's 4 Barbarians right here. You can see Sacked, I probably butchered that. He is AoE farming, and this is more value than a Barbarian fort. Just these 3 Barbarians right here for the price of 1 is much more value than, for example, doing a whole Barbarian fort, which is going to cost 300 AP and probably give in total around the same amount of rewards. So keep in mind, if you're AoE farming, Barbarians take the lead again, and if you have the time to spare, Barbarians are easily, by far and away, the most valuable thing in the whole entire game, in comparison to Barbarian forts especially. Now, if you're new here, I hope this video was informative, helpful, or at least funny with the one joke I cracked. And if it was, consider subscribing to the Archer Syndicate YouTube channel. I really appreciate it. It helps me a lot. And also the YouTube algorithm likes it. So if you enjoy my content, you want to support me as a creator, consider subscribing. It's completely free and it really supports the channel. I want to say thank you to the current subscribers of the channel, and also thank you to anyone who just subscribed. And I want to say thank you for watching. I hope to see you in the next one.